In Salt and Sanctuary, after finding a black pearl or getting enough salt to produce one, you're able to peruse the Tree of Skill, where you can spend your black pearls in an effort to learn new proficiencies and boost your stats. As you browse potential powers with which to buff yourself, you may have noticed small snippets of stories, both events that have been chronicled in the world of Salt and Sanctuary, and also fairy tales. Here in this short series, I'll present these stories for you, compiled in their intended reading order, as they can provide great insight into the overarching story of Salt and Sanctuary. Cyberphile proudly presents Salt and Sanctuary, Stories from the Tree of Skill. The Crimson Quell. Aldrich donned his magnificent black metal plate, fastening his heavy leather belt over his blue-quilted surcoat. He slipped his large hands into articulated metal gauntlets, placed the metal helm upon his head, and hoisted his great halberd on his shoulder. He was the captain of the Iron-Forged Guard, tasked with defending the Dorian Crown Princess Umali, future chair of the Council of Steel. 4 hours a day he would train with blunted weapons in the yard, and 12 hours a day he would spend keeping watch in the castle's royal wing. He didn't only keep watch, he listened. From beneath his motionless plate, behind those expressionless eyes, he saw, heard, processed, sorted, and analyzed every morsel of information that happened across his station. He knew that Clark's nephew Tibbs owed coin to the Court Hollows ruffians, for instance, and he knew that Count Emerald had been spreading favors outside of the official court in hopes of garnering support. But he never saw the Crimson Quell coming. There were clues, but Aldrich was powerless to put them to use. He noted Councilman Fardrick's curious absence from the morning minutes, but he may have taken ill. Dooley Chalmers, initiate to the guard and second cousin of Councilman Fardrick, was late to morning roll, but that wasn't incredibly unusual, and a set of keys to the larder had gone missing, but that was more likely a consequence of negligence than an act of foul play. But at the first sound, a shout amidst ringing steel echoing through the halls, Aldrich knew. Ally would become enemy, and he would have to cleave countrymen to save his princess. But in whom should he trust? His first order of business was clear enough: protect the girl. Umali, Crown Princess of Markdor, future chair of the Council of Steel, was a girl of 11 years. But Dorian girls of high station were very much the opposite of those from the southern continent, practicing the martial arts well ahead of the noble arts, excelling in dueling and marksmanship, not dancing and bowing. Aldrich nodded to Mans, a fellow Iron-Forged guard, and both entered the princess's chamber. She was safe in bed, slightly stirring in her sleep. He breathed a sigh of relief. The princess's room had a sophisticated lockdown mechanism, built for such an occasion such as this, where the Iron-Forged Guard could potentially be compromised. Aldrich gave another quick nod to Mans, and the two set about securing the room. The future chair of the Council of Steel would live another day. The room secured, Aldrich set about his martial duty. As quickly as one can move stealthily in plate, he moved faster, razor-sharp halberd in hand, his face fierce with the righteous rage. Rounding a corner, Aldrich came across a scene of carnage. Poppin, the squire, lay contorted in a pool of blood, his head almost completely severed at the neck. Next to him was Yarmul of the guard, bloodied and hunched against a marble column, his face a motionless mask of ivory. Yarmul was a superior fighter, but he looked to have taken a blade to the lung. Suddenly, an assailant leapt from beyond the doorway. The black-cloaked figure bore a wickedly grinning wooden mask, stained as black as his cloak, and wielded a curved dagger in his blood-stained hand. He lunged at Aldrich with a shriek, his dagger flashing in the torchlight. But Eridac's existence in the yard had prepared him well. He deftly stuck the assailant's dagger hand with the butt of his halberd, and felt the unmistakable crunch of the man's forearm bones snapping, the bloody blade dropping to the floor. Spinning the halberd over his shoulders, Aldrich drove the axe blade into the man's shoulder at the base of the neck, rending him neck to spleen. No sooner had the masked man collapsed into a twisted, unidentifiable mass of gore and ichor than a trio of similarly dressed men rushed in from the doorway. The four must have heard Aldrich approaching. The first was unlucky to be so quick to investigate. But Aldrich's skill against multiple attackers was formidable indeed. He thrust his halberd's spear tip into the gut of the nearest and fastest assassin, shifted his weight, and sent the doomed man hurling into the man to his right, the tip tearing the man's bowels from his chest, sending the pair sprawling in a tangled heap of viscera. The third attacker faltered at Aldrich's shocking show of violence, but only for the barest instant. He lunged at Aldrich with his dagger, but the blade merely blunted off the Iron-Forged guard's plate. Aldrich lashed back with a lightning-fast thrust with the butt end of his halberd to the man's chin, shattering the assailant's mask, collapsing his chin into a mangled mess of teeth, bone, and dripping red chunks. As the man fell backwards, Aldrich threw his weight into a falling slash, driving his halberd's axe head into the man's chest, slamming the hapless assassin into the marble floor beneath him, severed from throat to sternum. While one of the two other men was feebly trying to reel in his own bowels, face ashen, the other had risen, drawing a sharpened longsword. Aldrich heard the tinny sounds of plate beneath the man's cloak. Could it be? The man advanced on Aldrich, blade pointed out, and Aldrich immediately sized him up for what he was, a poor fighter with a knight's arsenal. In a flash, Aldrich expertly tipped his halberd spear tip at the man's wooden mask, sending the man's mask up off his face before he even knew what was happening. It was Dooley Chalmers, Ironforged Guard initiate, now a traitor. Dooley's face was a mixture of shock and agony. "Where are the others?" demanded Aldrich. Dooley said nothing, but shifted his weight in the barest hint of retreat. "So be it," said Aldrich, and thrust his blade through the initiate's throat, severing spine and windpipe in an instant. The present threat eliminated, Aldrich picked up and started running again, now toward the Great Hall. He moved quickly, remaining vigilant against ambush, paying keen attention to the sounds of the keep. As he grew closer, he began to hear some commotion. There was shouting and the unmistakable rally of swords striking shields. The scene in the Great Hall was chaos. The floor was strewn with bodies of servants, squires, guardsmen, black-cloaked assailants, and a noblewoman in evening dress. Half a dozen iron-forged guards faced off against a score of cloaked assassins. Though outnumbered, the guards would have had the upper hand, were it not for the fact that one of the assassins held a dagger to the throat of King Everin, chair of the Council of Steel. Though both sides were shouting, stomping, and banging swords on shields, the assassins held their ground, and the Ironforged would not advance to put their king in peril. But it was King Everin who ended the impasse. In a subtle move, he nodded to Aldrich, bared the faintest hint of a smile, and drove the assassin's blade into his own throat. In one bloody motion, King Everin had forfeit his life, ended his rule, and made Crown Princess Umali the new chair of the Council of Steel. What was of immediate import, though, was that he broke the impasse, inviting slaughter upon every last assassin in the keep. And that slaughter was quick, decisive, and without mercy. The toll, all told, was 3 members of the Ironforged Guard, 17 servants and squires, 24 assassins, 3 council members, the king, and his wife, Queen Forcella. The assailants that were captured alive revealed through questioning that the insurgency was indeed masterminded by Councilman Fardrick. Councilman Fardrick was seized and imprisoned, then executed by iron burr, his head tarred and placed on a spike for all to see. Those of his henchmen that were captured were all executed by the 5 cuts and given dogs' burials. In time, Markdor returned to greatness, but the Crimson Quell would not be forgotten. Hey, thanks for watching! Don't forget to subscribe for more Cyberphile content, and if you liked this video, show me with that little thumbs up button. If you liked this video, you might like one of my other videos. You can click right on the boxes to jump to them. Cyberphile, offline.